example 1. Is it already in standard form, or do we need to move things around? Is it in order?
Is it from the highest degree to the lowest?
This problem is already in order. Usually, they're already in order. This is already in standard form. Biggest exponent down to the constant. Step 1 is done. Didn't have to worry about it. Step 2. We have to check and see if our A, B, and our C value, which are the numbers in front of each term, we need to see if there is a greatest common factor, which is a fancy math way of saying, can I divide all 3 numbers by anything higher than 1? Okay? In front of this x squared, if it helps you, you can add a 1. Is there any number we can divide 1, 13, and 42 by?
Other than 1.
Other than 1. You can divide everything by 1. What can you divide 1, 13, and 42 by? And get a nice whole number for all 3.
Or can you do it at all?
Yeah, can you do it at all?
If 1 is already listed, you guys should have your answer.
Can you divide 1 by anything other than 1? No.
Nope.
Does this have a greatest common factor?
Nope.
No, but we had to check. If we do not check, then our factored form at the end of the problem is going to be missing the greatest common factor. This problem does not have a greatest common factor. Next step. Number 3. It is now time. We have prepared. We are ready to do the X method. This is the first time you are going to do the entire X method from scratch. The first thing we need to do is draw an X.
This is why we practiced this yesterday.
Now, you do not have a top number and a bottom number right now. We need to use our quadratic equation to figure out what goes on the top and what goes on the bottom. In my quadratic equation, A is the first term's coefficient, B is the second term's coefficient, and the C value is at the end. C for caboose. This is A, this is B, this is C.
I like how you labeled them, Mr. Coach, which is what you guys should be doing.
Yep. Your A, B, and C are just the numbers, not the x's. It's the coefficient. Did any of the x's you have yesterday have any, or x methods have any x's on the top or bottom? Only numbers. We do not need to worry about the x's. The A, B, and C are only the coefficients, the number in front. Okay? We're not worrying about our variables, just the numbers. At the tippity top of our X method, what do we have to do? Look at your little formula. I'm going to multiply A times C. What is the A value? What is the C value? Multiply. 1 times 42 is 42. Put it at the top.
Anytime that you guys have an equation set up where your A value is 1, it's going to be like that every time. 1 times whatever the C value is.
Yep. At the bottom, we're going to put the B value. B for bottom. The B value in this problem is 13. 13 goes on the bottom.
Now that looks a little bit more familiar.
Our X method is set up, and now we need to find our 2 mystery numbers. The factor sheet is super helpful. You weren't here yesterday. Here's what we did yesterday. I'm going to take my top number, 42, and I'm going to put it off to the side. If you're getting really good at it, you don't without listing them all out, but I'm just going to show it. You're going to take a look at 42 on the sheet. What are all the ways to make 42?
1 times 42.
2 times
21. 3 times. Come on, guys.
14. And 6 times 7. Those are all the ways to multiply two numbers together to get 42. This is factoring. You just factored 42. Okay? Our goal is to figure out which pair adds up to the bottom, 13. And like you said, it's 6 and 7. 1 and 42 is 43. 2 and 21 is 23. 3 and 14 is 17. 6 and 7 is 13. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. I'm going to take 6 and 7 and put them on either side. It does not matter which one goes where. 1 on the left, 1 on the right. 6 and 7. There's one more thing I need to do in my X method that you did not do yesterday. And it's over here in our X method. What do we do to both mystery numbers? We divide them by the A value. You have to do this every time. In this problem, what was the A value? A value.
Oh, 1.
The A value is 1. So I'm going to divide both sides by 1. 6 divided by 1 is just. So I'm going to write equals 6, and I'm going to circle it. This is one of my factors. On the right side, 7 divided by 1 is. That's my second factor. These are my two factors for the quadratic. And now we need to take our factors and turn them into binomials. AKA factored form that you wrote just above this sheet. To write our factored form, are you ready? Students struggle with this more than anything. I don't know why, but factored form, I take my parentheses. There's going to be 2 sets of parentheses. This is how I start. I draw my 2 sets of parentheses. Both sets of parentheses will always have an X, so I'm going to put an X in the front of both. I'm going to take my first factor, which was positive 6. So I'm going to write plus 6. I'm going to take my second factor, positive 7, and I'm going to write plus 7. If this 7 was negative, what do you think I would write down here instead of plus 7? Minus 7. If this problem had a greatest common factor, we would write that number out in the very front. But we didn't have a greatest common factor. This is factored form. Now listen very carefully. This is called factored. It is different than finding the answers. That's factored form. Some problems will ask you to just factor it, and you would be done. Some problems will ask you to find the solutions. Those are not the solutions, but they help us find the solutions. Now, in my day, I didn't have the X method, and in order to find the solutions, we would solve 2 little mini equations, which I'm going to do this time and this time only. Ready? The first mini equation is x plus 6. So I'm going to write x plus 6 equals 0. And we're going to solve the mini equation. How do I solve the mini equation?
That should be pretty easy, guys.
One step.
What do you add 6 to get 0?
Blank plus 6 equals 0. Yeah. X equals negative 6. That's one answer.
Or we could have just subtracted 6 from both sides.
x plus 7 equals 0. Remember, we're trying to figure out where does our quadratic equal 0. That's what an x-intercept is. So we're setting them equal to 0. Here, subtract 7 and x equals negative 7. These are the solutions. Factored form, answers. It depends on what the problem asks. It might just say factor it. It might say solve it. The red is solving. The purple is factoring. Sometimes you have to do both. So, the reason I said I'm only going to do these little baby equations this one time to show you how you do it old school, there's another way to get those that's really quick and easy. What do you notice about our factors in the x method and the solutions? They're the same except the 6 became a, the 7 became a, if this was a negative 6, guess what it would have became? A positive 6. If it was a negative 7, it would have became a, which is, look, step 6. Write down your solutions, and I just wrote the word flippity-flop. You take your factors, you flip their sign, those are the answers. For factored form, you take your factors and you just plug them in. Okay, one problem down. Factored form, solutions. We go again.
So what did those just tell you guys? If we would plug that in Desmos, what would that have? Where would the parabola cross the x-axis? It's right there.
If you graphed it, your little u would go through
-6
and come back up through
-7. So that's why I want to try to connect what you guys did with the graphing part. We're doing it manually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.